said that your children were taken away from you. When did that happen?
That happened when I was very young.
I get a lot of abuse, verbal abuse. I was assaulted by police physically.
What's your name?
Jack.
My name's Sharon.
Hi, Jack. How long have you been homeless and what put you in this situation?
I've been homeless for about 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
My situation is domestic violence,
Okay.
and I believe for my own sake,
For your own safety.
for my own sake.
Well, I've been homeless now since I was a teenager, off and on. I was made with the state, which means the government's in charge of you. I didn't really have a good bringing up. My mum wasn't a bad mum. She was a good mum because she was very sick and was always in and out of hospital all the time and that. And I actually ended up becoming a mixture with the wrong crowd and got myself into serious trouble and all that stuff. And was just in and out of foster homes and stuff like that. And
I'm not homeless, I'm living in poverty. I have very little income because of police-state problems in Australia now. Australia is a very difficult country to be an old man in. The culture of Australia does not treat its own people kindly.
How long have you been homeless?
Nearly 4 years.
And what led to this situation?
My dad passed away in 2017 and I lived with him in his commission flat. And after he passed away, because I wasn't on the lease, I got kicked out.
Could you share a bit of your life before you were homeless?
I don't really know much about my bringing up sort of thing, except for my mum brought us 3 kids up all on her own, without a father, and
All right.
Oh, before I became a homeless, I had a beautiful life.
Good life, yeah.
A very good life.
Could you share something about it?
Well, I was married, but now I'm widowed. I did have a child, but now she's passed away.
Your child passed away?
Yeah, my child's gone now.
Losing a child is one of the hardest things that can happen to a person. So that must have been really hard.
Yeah, but when you go through sickness, go through a medical sickness, it's not no one's fault, but it does hurt.
Yeah.
But I've got to be respected. That's what counts.
Does the pain go away?
Nah.
Can you share a bit of your childhood, a bit of your life before homelessness?
I had a very hectic childhood. When I was 5, I moved back in with my mum after living with my dad since like 1 year old. Her boyfriend at the time hit another man over the head with a piece of wood, and we ended up following him on the run from the police, and so we travelled around Australia running from the law for years. I was born in Canberra. The family came to Melbourne when I was 5 years old. I lived out in the eastern suburb. I was dux at my high school. Then I went to university, studied Latin, philosophy and literature. Then I became a tram conductor for a year. Then I became a general nurse. Then I became a midwife. Now I am a filmmaker who occasionally gets film.
So you said that your children were taken away from you. When did that happen?
that happened when I was very young. I would have been, about in my 20s then. And the reason why is because I had nowhere to live. I was homeless, so they thought it'd be better to take them away from me.
How old were your kids when you gave them away?
They were very young. My boy would have been about 9 months. My other daughter would have been about 3 and 5. To always pray and wonder if I was ever going to see them again. And my prayers actually got heard because after 20 whole years, my oldest daughter, actually, I made contact with her. Well, she made contact with me.
How did that feel when you met her? Did you hug her?
It was just like, I just couldn't believe it. We just hugged and cried and
Can you describe a day in your life and what are your challenges?
A day of my life is just wake up every morning, glad to be alive, and whether life challenges me, I hope it's all good, and just go with the flow of life, that's all you can do.
Getting people to listen to my story, to show respect, to show trust, and to be prepared to speak up about injustices that happen in Australia and are getting worse and worse all the time. I was then again taken to court by police for being friendly to a neighbour, and most recently at a church service last year, I was assaulted by police physically
sexually assaulted by one of them in Swanston Street, and now they're putting me on trial.
Every morning when I get up, this is my life story. This is what I have to do to survive, just to make money and that, to find somewhere to sleep at night and something to eat, and yeah.
And what's the biggest challenge you face?
Biggest challenge? I really don't know.
How has homelessness impacted your mental health?
I'm living in poverty, I'm not homeless. It's very stressful to be living in this country. At its worst, lots of people are great, but the social order has become very cruel.
Affected people majorly. I've seen it myself on the streets. People had committed suicide, and a person had died in my arms through that. They just couldn't handle it anymore. People just labelled them, and they just, well, actually it was a female.
Yes.
I get a lot of abuse, verbal abuse.
I'll tell you something. I grew up in India, right? In India, it's very noisy. You'll learn to ignore that noise. People who abuse you, people who talk bad about you, their stuff, they haven't learned or achieved anything in life if they don't have respect for you. So they're noise, and you should just ignore it. You should never let it affect you. Remember that.
That's very good advice.
Right. Tell me a positive interaction that you've had recently with someone or anyone.
I've had this person one time stop me and ask me if he can, if I pulled my pants down and showed him my bottom, that he'd give me money. Yeah.
That's... Tell me a positive interaction you had with a stranger.
A positive interaction I've had with a stranger. Lots of mothers who see this smile and laugh. Some of their kids smile and laugh. That's one example. Some people understand this. Aku mau jadi WNI. I want to be Indonesian. I sit in front of an Indonesian restaurant because that way I get to speak with Indonesians sometimes, and that's a very positive interaction.
The nice lass has been mid-20s, good old combo, and she said something to me, and I put in there into motion, and bang, it worked.
What do you think about life, and what's the purpose of life?
I don't know. Sometimes I just wish I wasn't born, It's like, I hate life. I really do. I hate it. I hate all the violence. Every time, everything, it's, all this stuff that's going on in the world, all this homelessness people, and just everything that you hear, it's just terrible.
Life is what you make out to be. I make my life as happy as I can, but that's just my opinion.
What would you tell people who have a lot?
Life at its best is wonderful. The single most important thing to happiness and sanity is freedom. And even though freedom is being under attack in Australia, that talking freely is what keeps me sane and healthy, despite the fact that I am in poverty. To those people who have a lot, use it to travel, to meet people. Try to find people who have less to be generous to. Even though I am now living in poverty, I'm currently helping a poor family in Indonesia to set up their own home.
Look in your own backyard, think about other people, right? Visiting day in, and put yourself in their position. How would you feel? If someone's done that to you, is that the same thing you're doing? How do you feel?
What do you think about life in general? What's the purpose of all of this? Of everyone's life around here? What's the purpose of life?
I think the purpose of life is to just be happy. Just be happy, be kind to your fellow human being. Don't cause trouble, don't do drugs. Just be happy.
And still find that they have nothing and they're still chasing more. What advice would you give them?
Well, I know, for instance, if I was, if I was wealthy and had a lot of money and all that, mate, and I would help people, you know what I mean? I would want to help people. And
because I think that the world, all of us, and sometimes me included in this, we take a lot. We always want to take from people and from things.
We don't want to give back to them.
We don't want to give.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I feel the purpose of life is to actually give, not to take.
That's right. Exactly right.
And do you have any future aspirations? No.
I got none for mine. Yeah, I got nothing. So, other people, good on it. Well done. But I got nothing in my life, and it's all good.
Was it a happy one?
Yes, I know, but it's all good.
All good.
Yeah, it's all good. Can't complain. But no one's got to listen.
Well, the way things are going in Australia, I will become homeless, and things will get worse economically, but artistically things are looking up. creating art, films and word art, is the heart of my life. And you never know. If I created art displays in Indonesia at places important to General Douglas MacArthur, the World War II hero, to President Barack Obama, and to the current president of Indonesia, President Jokowi, and his predecessor, President Yudhoyono. I've met President Yudhoyono and Jokowi and President Wahid, an earlier president. Yudhoyono only once, the others all more than once, and I love Indonesia. Aku mau jadi WNI. I want to be Indonesian. That gives me hope. Be better than being Australian. I spent a lot of time there.
I'm not good with crowds.
Ironically, you're sitting here as the most busiest part of the city.
Yeah, I know. That's very contradictory.
Anyways, I'm going to give you a hug because you deserve it. Is that all right?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thanks for your time.